And welcome back to Survivor 42 in 42. Boston Rob just won Redemption Island. Oh boy. I have said it many times on the show, like, my opinion on Rob changes based off of the season he's on. Heroes versus Villains, I love him because I'm not a Russell fan. Marquesas, he's fine. On rewatches, it's not that fun when he outs John Carroll, but it's fine. All-Stars, I actually feel bad for him, and this is probably my least favorite of the Boston Robs. Winners at War, he's fine because he goes out early. But we're joined by John Farrell today to discuss Season 22, Redemption Island, a.k.a. The Boston Rob Show, because that's basically what it is. But, and we're gonna start from the beginning, but I want to get your opinion first. The first time you watched this season compared to the most recent time, has it changed in your head? Were you rooting for Rob or Russell or maybe like an outside party? What were your thoughts going into this season?
The first time I watched the season, I was heavily rooting for Rob. I was sick of Russell at that point, just like you. And watching him really dominate with that mafioso game and just take control of a tribe the way I have never seen anybody else do, and just he literally led the sheep to the slaughter. And then the times I've watched this has been for pure entertainment. I love watching Phillip just be Phillip. I know he's going to fail every single time that he does something, but he fails in such remarkable ways that it baffles me every single time. But I love his zaniness, and I love big characters like that. Whether he admits that that's his character or not, like, it's fun to see. I mean, it was interesting to see him battle back at the final tribal the way he did, and was so aggressive and negative towards like everybody. But
and we'll get all into Phillip Shepherd, like, because I have my thoughts on him as well. And as a person that's not a fan of crazy characters, why Phillip might actually be one of the ones I enjoy more than others. But starting with the pre-merge, everyone arrives. And fresh off Nicaragua, it's like, all right, we shit the bed there, but let's fix it. And then you see Russell Hantz get off the helicopter, and it's like, oh, okay, well, and we get Rob, and they're advertising it as Rob versus Russell. Which, as I was watching it this time, I was thankful that they went with this random rivalry from Heroes versus Villains, when they could have gone with an even worse rivalry from Heroes versus Villains of Russell versus Rupert, because I would have immediately checked out.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's how bad this season ends up, that I started thinking about how it could be worse. And Rupert versus Russell would have been just the drizzling shits, much like the pre-merge. So the pre-merge starts off, it's fun. You're getting to, like, it's just the first episode of a lot of seasons. It's like, all right, just getting to know these folks. We learned that Phillip is a crazy person very early on. Russell gives his whole speech to his tribe that, it's different this time, blah, blah, blah. And he immediately gets 2 disciples under his wing. And we get to that first, not my favorite tribal for the season, because I do have 2 actual good ones. The first tribal of the season is the Francesco Phillip Debacle, which is hilarious because you're learning more about this character, Phillip, but also you quickly realize, oh, these people are really up Rob's ass. Like, at least these 7 at that point, because Matt was still there, are really at Rob's ass. I wonder who's going to be the one that eventually does something. I wonder. No one. Spoilers. But the very next tribal, and I want to get your view on this, both Matt Elrod blindsides are my 2 favorite moments of the season. Not because I don't like Matt Elrod, but it's just more because those are the only points where it's like, wow, that was caught me off guard, caught all of them off guard. So what were your opinions on Matt at any point during the game? And what were some of your favorite tribals from this season? I'm very interested to see if you have anything else that's not the 2 Matt Elrod vote-outs.
I mean, first off, Matt getting voted off so early shocked the hell out of me. But the reason behind it, I completely got, because he was the first one to show any signs of maybe he's going to do something against Rob. Rob saw that immediately and was like, nope, we're good. Bye. And I mean, we haven't gotten to the point of there's Redemption Island here. This is the first time that people have the chance to battle back into this game, and
That's Pearl Island.
That extra thought to like talk about that and have that extra reasoning as to why am I going to be voting somebody out. Getting to watch Russell voted out third, icing on the cake.
Yeah, it was him getting voted out third and then crying when he loses the battle back. Like, yeah. Especially the first time I watched it, I'm like, oh man, like I hate watching people cry. So, it stuck with me.
Yeah.
Time around, it was like, all right, cool. Because of the way I'm watching this, where I just spent the last like half a week watching seasons with Russell Hands, I'm like, all right, cool. I'm done. Like, I'm actually done. It's not like Rupert, where I still have another Rupert season coming up Saturday. I can just be done with Russell. But yeah, I felt like Matt and Andrea right off the bat were two people, and Francesca, but they dealt with her. I felt like Matt and Andrea, if they could just have their two be a part of that larger group, that potentially Andrea could sway Natalie and Ashley. And if I blank on people's names this season, it's because this season was that boring that I literally just the reunion is happening right now, and I've forgotten most of the Zapatera's names, and the Ometepe's, like I know Grant because he has dreads and will race, so I don't know if I'm upset about it or not. Do you think that if the roles were reversed and if Russell and Rob end up on the other tribes, that the season still goes the same way?
No.
What do you think happens?
No, Zapatera was a much smarter tribe, and they weren't as ooh and ah like over having that returning player, because they were smart. They knew that Russell's a dipwad, and they wanted to get rid of him immediately. So, I mean, had Rob been over there, them like, this guy's a snaky motherfucker, that he needs to go.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I feel like if Rob is on Zapatera, they don't throw a challenge to vote him out. I feel like they do probably keep him around for a while.
Yeah.
And I do feel like Ometepe they had enough people on the tribe that knew about Russell that I feel like Francesca or somebody else would be able to rally the troops to get rid of him before he gained his footing. So I do feel like Rob on both tribes, maybe he doesn't win if he's on Zapatera, but I do feel like Rob does well enough in the season that it doesn't count as a flop with having two returnees that don't do well. And the other thing, Redemption Island was absolutely implemented to get them on TV one more extra week than like that's all it was. It was rigged. I don't think I do feel like what Survivor does with a lot of their favorites, they put them in situations where they have the best chance to win, but they don't outright rig the game for them because that is inherently wrong.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. I mean, we witnessed some great battles in Redemption Island. I mean, pre-merge was dominated, hands down. I mean, we watched him just crush one by one by one by one all the way until he got back to the merge.
Yep. I mean, and I'm going to talk about this later. The fact that we've gotten a fair few returnees from this season, or at least people to be nominated to come back from this season, and not Matt Elrod, which is crazy to me because he was the physical threat on the season. Yes, he was doing it, after being voted out of the game, but he's one challenge away from getting back into the game for a second time. And in that moment, anything can happen. And it's not like Andrea was any slouch when she got back. No. She was close as well. But I feel like Matt was a very in a season that doesn't have many characters that we can latch onto. I feel like Matt is. And as a person that's not very religious, I did have to laugh a lot every time that I feel like God's telling me to do this, but like God's telling me to do. I'm like, all right. And the first time I watched it, I'm like, wow, is God really just going to help this guy get to the end? Because it kind of seemed like that's what was happening. People read the edit and all that. I was fully convinced watching this the first time that Matt Elrod was going to win the game because of the Jesus story arc. Almost, it was like, yes, he's being resurrected and coming back and winning coming back twice and winning. So for him to come in third at that battle back that Andrea eventually won was like, oh, all right, well,
Yeah.
so much for that. But I mean, Matt Elrod is doing very well for himself now as Wyatt Nash.
Yes.
I feel last time I talked about him, I think he's on like Riverdale or something. He's on something. I'm fairly certain it's Riverdale from what I remember.
It's some show that I don't watch.
Yes.
But he also chopped off. I looked at a picture. He chopped off all his hair. That's why I didn't even recognize him. I was like, oh, this is what he looks like now. Like, what is the surfer boy look?
Phillip Shepherd.
Yeah.
So, I'm not a Coach fan. My favorite version of Coach is either it's probably Heroes vs. Villains because he doesn't overstay his welcome. Debbie. My favorite version of Debbie is in Co Wrong before she goes, to 11. Phillip, my favorite version of him is Caramoan, but in this season we are introduced to this person, and I feel like with Phillip this season, his edit is all over the place because sometimes he's crazy Phillip as far as these characters and talking about his great-great-grandfather and the feathers and all that. There are other moments where he's just crazy Phillip as far as Rice Wars, which we will get to. And then there are other moments where he's like actually what I feel like is genuine Phillip Shepherd. And it sucks because when Rice Wars happens, the stuff that's coming out of his mouth and the character that he's being portrayed as in that scene do not match at all. Like I almost didn't want to say, you know what, I don't think that Steve is racist, but like I appreciate the dialogue that's happening here, but I couldn't even say that because he was still portraying crazy Phillip, if you understand where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
So Phillip, for you, I know that you already touched on him a little bit, but Phillip, for you, what was he for you in this season? Was he just that big character you needed, or did you find other things to like or not like about him?
Oh, I mean, I loved to hate him. I mean, that's the perfect way to sum it up. Watching him just in the first couple episodes, I was like, what the hell is going on with this guy? Is he legit an FBI agent? I was like, there's no way in the world that this guy works for the FBI and is like talking this way to everybody. I mean, we talk about like you're talking about him in Karamo, and I mean, this season I almost found him dialed back because then in Caramoan he attempted to become Boston Rob and it failed horribly, but
I feel like he did have a modicum of a success as far as like he had this big alliance going, like
he wasn't like in charge of it.
I look for reasons this time around to root for Phillip. I really do. And I did find some of the things he did to just be. If anyone that's ever watched Duck Dynasty, Phillip reminded me of Uncle Si. From just the things that he would say, things he would do. It's just like, all right, this dude is so goofy that I have to laugh at this. But also, you're making us look bad, Phillip. I appreciated his role in this season because, as we're about to talk about with Boston Rob and his alliance, for anyone that's watched The Sopranos, we're going with the mafioso thing. Boston Rob, clearly Tony. We have Grant, who I would put in the Silvio role, and I would put Phillip in the Paulie Walnuts role, where it's like, all right, we keep Paulie around because he helps us out, but like if he steps out of line, we probably are going to have to put him down or put him out.
Yeah.
So I understand that, Rob was playing with newbies, but do you feel like Grant and Ashley and Natalie actually had a game plan for this, or do you think that they all just thought we're going to the end with Rob? Like, he's telling me the truth, and we're going to beat him.
If there was anyone of that group, it was Ashley. I think that she would have turned on that group or turned on Rob anyway. that she wanted to take all of these other floaters because she was a strong player in terms of competitions, and you could watch her battle, and she fought hard, but she knew she needed Rob for as long as she could. But then when she lost at Final Four, and Rob had that breakdown during the challenge and everything. I mean,
he was carrying his family on his back. You wouldn't understand. Rob is literally carrying his family on his back.
Yeah. But I think that would have been the time that she would have done it. Because, I mean, I was a little surprised she didn't do it at Final Five or take the shot anyway. But I don't think she had the third vote that she needed.
Yes. And I feel like that's where the issue with Andrea and Ashley come from, is the fact that by the time the Zapateras are gone, all they can do is say, well, we screwed up, but we could potentially make this move. But at that point, none of your options are going to work, because you can't get Phillip to jump ship. You can't get Grant to jump ship. And you definitely can't get Natalie to jump ship. So you might as well just stay on the ship and hope that you went out and somehow get rid of him. And it's wild because when Andrea comes back into the game, the first thing she does, instead of trying to slander, or not slander, but say, oh yeah, the jury are thinking about voting for Rob at the end, she initially says, they're all thinking about voting for Phillip, which I thought was very weird. And, if she wants to get the girls to vote out Phillip, maybe they make a move on Rob the next round. But it's not until the tribal council that she gets voted out the second time that she says, y'all need to make a move and get rid of this guy because it's very clear that he's going to win. Now, it wouldn't have mattered because Rob had an idol there and Andrea still would have gone home. But it's just all of these people's perceptions just seem warped, where everyone, Zapatera and everyone else, are saying, yeah, Rob, you guys are following Rob, like pod people, and no one is, at least from what we're being shown, it's not, they're not grasping this idea until it's too late. And now they're pissed and sucks to suck.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, literally during the whole entire merge, we've got the return of the Redemption Island, and it's Zapatera. First it was Matt, then it was all these Zapateras in a row, and we're just watching them just fall.
And that's when it becomes boring.
We saw. I mean, I loved watching Ralph. Like we said, R.I.P. Ralph. Ralph is one of those that I would have loved to see come for another season. I'd love to see Mike come back for another season.
Mike just came off. I don't know. They're actually interviewing him right now. He always came off as bland to me. Like,
he was very solid. That's what he was. Blah. I'd love to. I mean, he was definitely a huge part of that taking out of Russell, there you go. That's the name. Early on. And, I mean, he had such a good strategical mind, but we never got to see because Zapateras just literally got taken out.
And I think that's why they target him first, I believe, after they get rid of Matt. Another thing about Zapatera is they don't get much screen time when it comes to strategizing at the merge because there is no strategizing. But something that I noticed this time is there's always at least one clip where someone on Zapatera will go up to somebody on Ometepe and say, hey, we're voting for this person tonight, just in case you guys want to, we're voting for Phillip because we're voting for Rob, and just in case someone wants to jump ship. And then you go to Tribal, and it goes exactly how it's supposed to. And I felt bad for them, Zapatera, on this go-around, because it's like they're already being blocked out of strategizing. They've had to just get to the point where they have to just say, hey, we're doing this. Maybe you'll jump ship, maybe you won't. But if you do, we'll love you forever. And, we get this whole – it's because of the buddy system.
Yes.
Which, once again, all credit to Rob for being able to get people to do this. Actual human beings that, have their own agency in life, getting these actual human beings to just go along with this. More power to them. But especially someone like Grant, It's wild to me that he went along with this and has a confession where he says he's not my dad, blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, then why are you still doing it? I understand that you might be annoyed in confessional, but you're not doing anything about it now.
Oh, exactly.
And, yeah. I really wanted to like Grant this season.
Yeah, as much as I would love to see Grant come back for another season, after watching what he did, I really don't care to see him come back for another.
And the returnees that we've gotten, Andrea, I wasn't sold on Andrea when she first made her return in Caramel, and I have enjoyed Andrea both times she's played since this season, so I feel like it was a good return. Yeah. Phillip, like I said, my favorite version of Phillip is in Caramel, and Boston Rob, we get back for Winners at War, so whatever.
Francesco's the only other one.
And Francesca, which, cool. And Natalie Tenorelli is on the ballot for Cambodia. And watching this season, watching Samoa, Monica Padilla has 2 episodes where it's like, okay, this is probably what got her on the ballot for Cambodia. There is nothing that happens this season where it's like, oh, now, yeah, you know what? I would like to see Natalie play again. And Natalie has a big fandom, too. And I don't understand where that comes from.
You got me there. I mean, for somebody to make the finals and have such a purple edit, like, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I just sat here yesterday or 2 days ago. Oh, I think it had been yesterday. And I said I didn't believe in this perception of GOATs in both Real Survivor, Real Big Brother, or in any online or live game.
Yeah.
Because until that GOAT loses, they can't actually be a GOAT.
Yeah.
Having said that, I'm immediately going to go back on what I said, because Natalie and Phillip are the GOATs. Like, they are the GOATs of Survivor. You have Natalie, who spent her entire final tribal basically praising Rob, and you have Phillip, who was antagonizing everyone like Rob knew he would do, while also praising Rob. And it's like, all Rob has to do is sit there, be humble, own up to stuff, and just be like, all right, yeah, cool, yep, I'm not going to antagonize anyone, I'm not going to apologize, I'm just going to, here's Russell talking again. And there's no way he loses this time. And I feel like Natalie, Ashley, even to a lesser extent, Andrea, Grant, I feel like they saw or heard about All-Stars. They maybe saw Samoa, other seasons where the odds-on favorite doesn't win in the end, and they thought, maybe if we do this. The only difference is All-Stars, as we talked about 3 weeks ago, All-Stars had a whole bunch of friends playing in a Survivor game, and they thought they were going to be friends out there. It turns out they weren't. They all felt real life burned by Rob. They vote for Andrew. Samoa, the big difference there is Natalie White was able to sit there and say why she did certain things. She had friends on the jury already because she attempted to do things that actually got Eric Cardona voted out. And Russell sat there and antagonized people and didn't read the room and realize, oh, I might not have this wrapped up like I thought I did. So I feel like they took the wrong things from the season. If this is what their thinking was, if their thinking was, we can go to the end with this guy because people are not going to like him. That's not Rob this season. Rob this season is, I'll just have Phillip and everybody else be my hatchet men, and everyone's going to know where it's coming from. And shucks. Up to this point in Survivor history, so 22, where do you rank Rob as far as winners? Just your own personal list. Where do you have him top 5? Just up till 22.
Up to this point, he would be right at the verge of top 10, I think. And it's not. Okay. I mean, it'd be because there's definitely some winners still that. I mean, the winner that you just covered yesterday,
Fabio,
good old Fabio. Fabio gets shit on a lot, but
there's and this is I think there's merit to every win, because A win is a win. At the end of the day, a win is a win. You being from Mass area, I'm assuming that you're a Pats fan?
Yep.
Okay, so the Super Bowl that they won 12-3 over the Rams, or whatever the score was. Yes, it was a shitty win. It was a shitty win, but guess what? They won the Super Bowl, so it doesn't matter how they won as long as they did. So exactly. I wish I could use that analogy more with Survivor, but I know that there is not really much overlap as far as fandoms. But it's the same case with this. Just because you feel like someone didn't deserve to win doesn't mean that they didn't win, So for me with Rob, do I think this is the most dominant win up to this point? No, I think that's actually Tom Westman. But I do feel like this is probably 2 or 3. And then Kim does it again 2 seasons later. And the reason that I ultimately will end up having Kim above Rob is the fact that Kim did it against all newbies on her first go around, while Rob did it to all newbies his 4th time around. I still think dominant is dominant. He who cares if they were new? They could have done something. They came to play. But I do feel like this is the culmination of he tried to be the mob boss in Marquesas. He got screwed. Screwed is a rough term. He played himself. All-Stars, he tried to play the mob boss again. Once again, he just wasn't as likable as the other one. Heroes versus Villains, he's not really the mob boss. He's trying to actually get rid of the wannabe mob boss and get screwed by Coach, kind of. So this time around,
there was a whole bunch of stupid shit there.
all comes together finally. Yes. And, that watching it this way, watching it, this will be my 22nd day of doing this. It was a fun story arc to watch. Like, this is a fun culmination of the Boston Rob character. I know we get him at Winners at War, but that's more of an epilogue. Your thoughts on Boston Rob throughout history? Just everything, I know you said we're rooting for him going to the season, but were you always a fan of him?
So I missed Marquesas the first time around. I was in college, and at that point, college, internet really wasn't available as much back then. When I was young, we had to record stuff on a VHS tape. So I didn't have my VHS tapes at college at that point, so trying to catch up on Marquesas was a little difficult. So my first time really, really getting to watch Rob was during All-Stars, and I liked watching him play then. And he did have the mafioso, but he was playing a lot with other people. And there was a lot of it was a lot stronger of a cast for him to play with.
And do well against.
He was done in by a bunch of dumbass decisions by other people in Heroes Villains. First off, Tyson's mistake, and then
I love that he brings up this season. He was like, "Yeah, I don't trust idols. Idols just kind of screwed me last time I played."
Yeah. Then my coach pretty much the following round. But then this time around, I mean, the reason I rank him so low is because of the cast itself. It was beyond a dominant playing game, and he didn't have to have a dynamic final tribal in order to really push himself over the top like so many of other people have had to do to win this game. He literally just had to just be, like you said, be humble and just like smile and like just realize, yeah, I did this. And it's watching him throw the clue that he got in the volcano just was the final, just like icing on the cake. It's like I'm having fun watching him torture.
At Final 6, I think he has a confessional where he says, "I'm literally strategizing for everyone here. I have to go to these people and say, this is where these people are voting. And he's going in a circle because he says, I know that these people are not going to talk to each other." It's like, that's wild to me that these people are not talking to each other, because even in shit seasons, people still in Nicaragua, people are talking probably too much in that season, but they talk. And here it's just like there's nothing. He is doing all the strategizing for his entire tribe, and it's David. I in my notes I have him written down. I say, oh boy, David is a pretentious little shit. And
this is true.
Having said that, David at Final Tribal does say, it was masterful, and I do agree with that. But I also feel like David was trying to have his Eric Cardona moment, which did not. Oh God, the engagement thing is happening right now. I'm so embarrassed. I'm not going to turn it up, but hold on, I'll show it right quick. Yes, here we go.
I just need to see her face. I mean, when she's like, no, go away.
Please get the fuck out of my face. No, David tried to have this moment, and it's just like not sticking because Rob's going to win no matter what you say. You're not swaying anyone in this situation. And to the point where Ralph still votes for File in the end over Rob. So you didn't sway that vote, and I feel like that's the only vote you could have swayed. Rice Wars, because as we start to go down. Rice Wars, in my opinion, yes, I thought that Phillip was a crazy person. Yes, the Ometepe people. Oh God, he's getting up. Oh my goodness, I might have to sit like this. Ometepe people had done a great job at not associating with Zapatera. So the fact that Zapatera decides at this moment, hey, we don't want you to have our rice. I actually sided with them in that situation. Now, when Phillip, starts going off, and this is where I feel like the edit wants us to root for Phillip in this situation, but because of how he's been shown, it's like, all right, now he is actually just coming off as crazy. Listen, I understand him being, as a black, I understand him being feeling potentially alone out there because, he is the only person that looks like him out there. I understand that, he grew up in a different time where certain things that are said might, and not even might, probably meant this person is a racist. I myself, in the community, have felt that way in a game before, but I just kind of rolled with the punches. I feel like where the line was crossed is when Phillip's like, you're basically calling me the N-word. It's like, okay, that actually is a stretch. Even if Steve had malice in his heart when he said it, which I don't think he did, when he said, oh yeah, it feels like you're trying to say the N-word, it's like, okay, that's not what's happening here. If anything, it come from Ralph. Okay. No, that's me. I don't feel like this man is attacking you for being black. The other thing with that is Steve and Julie continue to call him crazy after he says, okay, you guys are saying this too much. And I understand that they still probably don't mean it that way, but can you not just use another word at this point? Because the man is clearly just snapped. The reunion is over, thank goodness. I don't know. Rice Wars for you. For me, it was very uncomfortable, especially the tribal where they just kept harping on it, and it's not a fun watch at all.
No. It literally was the uncomfortable moment of the season, and I honestly didn't know completely how to feel about it. I mean, me being the white guy, I mean, I agree. Phillip saying that, it's like, that sounds like a stretch, but I'm not gonna say anything. It's like, I would have just backed the fuck away from Phillip at that point. It's like, look, dude, we're in two completely different paths. Sorry, that is not what I intended. We're good.
And you know what? Amazingly enough, it is Boston Rob, I'm fairly certain, that says, maybe you guys are both, maybe it was him or Jeff. One of them says, maybe you're both right. Maybe this is how Phillip feels, and we should respect that. But we should also, maybe it's also true that Steve just meant it as you're crazy because you're crazy. And I did feel good about the way that ended, because they immediately start going to talk about the underwear. They go from segueing from that to who hid the underwear, which was, one of the crazier segues, but it happened.
Yeah.
I fell asleep twice during this rewatch. The family visit, I tweeted this out. It's like the family is usually the one the episode that I rely on every season to like get me to feel something. I shed a tear or two when Matt saw his video, but not much. And to cap it all off, Mike has given a decision. He can either be with his family member, he could give love to the other people that are on Redemption Island, which at that point are Ralph and Matt Elrod, or he could give love to everyone left in the game. And I'm sitting there once again. I like Redemption Island's not a season I just watch over and over. In my head, I'm like, oh, he's gonna give it to the Redemption Island people. That's how it happens, right? And it's like, no, I'm because God told me to do it to more people. I'm gonna give it to everyone left in the game. It's like, I feel like most people would have gone with option 2, the Redemption Island folks. Any thoughts? Would you have gone differently?
I don't know. Because I don't know what it's like to have been missing everybody for that long of a time period. I don't know if I would have been the selfish one to keep it for myself. I don't know if I would have tried to curry favor with the people that could possibly save me in this game, or if I want to be nice to the people that are struggling out there just by themselves out on redemption. It's the loved one dilemma is always one that baffles me. I mean, I think back to the only other time in which it was almost comical because of what happened afterwards, and you go back to Pearl Islands and watching Johnny Fairplay pretty much fuck everyone else over from having
throws the challenge except for Sandra.
Yeah, because they're just like, I want to see my loved one.
No, so I do agree that the dilemma that you have when you have usually 2 options.
Yeah.
But I think because there was an extra fun third option, like the medium ground, that's where I feel like he should have, because these Ometepe people would not do the same thing to you if they were on Redemption, and they would probably go with this option. I feel like a lot of people would have just helped the people that are actually on Redemption because they needed. But I just thought that was just something that stuck out. The last thing that stood out to me this season, before I get to my rating and both of our overall thoughts, I think Andrea brings up Natalie and Rob's relationship and how it was like borderline creepy. I wasn't there. The edit didn't make it seem like overly creepy. It just felt like she was just one of his pod people.
Yeah.
There's been a few relationships in the show's history that I have been weirded out by, mostly Pascal, Nalia, and Marquesas. That's because I don't like Pascal. But this was not that. I did feel like Rob was the protector, and the reason, and I feel like it was finally nailed home at Final Tribal when everyone's attacking Natalie, and Rob has this moment that I don't know how I didn't remember. He whispers to her and says, "They'll be all smiles right after this." And I really felt for her and him in that moment of like, hey, I've been through this before, and they all want to be best friends right afterwards. So just sit here, go with the punches, and it'll be all fine at the end. And as someone like I'm assuming, I don't know your org history besides the one that we played, but I'm assuming that you have sat at the end of games before, and we know how it gets, and especially in this community where like people feel like they can say whatever they want because they're behind the screen. But oftentimes right afterwards, it's like they feel like, okay, well, it's over now. It's like, well, yes, but why did you throw that thing in about me being a horrible person in real life or whatever it is? And so I did appreciate Rob in that moment saying, "Hey, Natalie, don't worry." Like,
I think that's the big difference between Rob now in Redemption Island and Rob in All Stars. The dad in him came out, and because he didn't have that experience, and with Rob having his daughters, yes, he was that protector, But I mean, that's one thing about Boston Rob is he's never been one to assassinate somebody's character. Yeah, he can be an asshole with the game and make snaky moves, but he's never going to attack somebody personally.
Yes.
So that's one thing that I've always respected about Rob. As much as people love or hate him, that's one thing that you can always respect about him.
Yes, it is a game to him. He is the ultimate, like, this is a game. I'm going to play it like a game. If you don't like it, get out of my face. But, you know, and I feel like a lot, especially in All-Stars, a lot of those people were not playing that game as if it was a game. They felt like it was friends. We're all friends playing a game together, but it's not real. Like, we're just here to have fun. And it's like, well, no, this guy's actually here to beat you. And the fact that you didn't grasp that is on you, Lex, and not on Rob. I hate that I have to continue to bring up Lex. Hi, Julia.
I'm sure Julia Rowe loves this stuff.
But in summation, Redemption Island, it's not good. And I know people usually rank it at the bottom. I will never say that Redemption Island is the worst season ever because Thailand exists. But it's not far from the bottom. Like, it drags, and it shouldn't, because it actually has one less episode than a lot of other seasons. Thankfully, they have a double boot episode that makes it a lot easier. The Redemption Island twist doesn't work this season. It doesn't work until Blood versus Water, in my opinion. The cast is just a bunch of, like, they were fun to watch this time, but I don't know anything about Julie. I know she has a daughter because of Final Tribal. I don't know anything about Ralph except for his friend came. I know that Steve played in the NFL. I know that Mike was a Afghanistan vet. That's as far as I know about these characters. It very much is the Boston Rob show, and as much as I enjoy Rob as a character for the show, it just doesn't work for me. I'm gonna give it a 1.75 out of 5 because Thailand is 1.5, and I can't rate it the same as Thailand. Your overall thoughts before we head out?
Okay, so I mean, I'd rank it maybe slightly higher because I mean, I was happy to finally see Rob finally get to the top of the mountain, and having those fun couple moments with Rob was worth it in my book. I mean, yeah, we got to see Amber again for the 1,000th time when she came. Wasn't it Amber?
His sister came for the.
That's right. It was Amber.
I think Amber was pregnant or something.
That's right. That's why she didn't come. But and it's funny because this was our final time seeing Russell. But I have quickly learned that Russell is my favorite of the Hanses, and that's a sad statement. Because
I'm not a Big Brother person, but I know that his brother was on that.
Willie is easily the worst. I mean, and Brandon is Brandon. And I've heard some horror stories about Brandon, and that's coming from Johnny Fairplay. So, I mean, if Johnny Fairplay is telling me that Brandon is something, then it's
probably true. Yes, I'm so excited to start South Pacific and get all into the Brandon Hance storyline. Russell Hance's nephew is his job. His nephew. So yes, John, thank you so much for coming on. Your first time coming on, I forgot to ask you the most important question. What is your Survivor hot take?
My Survivor hot take. I feel that Kim Spradlin is in the same page as Boston Rob in terms of winners.
Oh, yeah.
They dominated the season, but it was a horrible fucking cast, and I can't rank One World that high either because of that.
Yeah, I would say that I agree with you. But John, thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to having you back sometime down the line. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you to everyone to continue to support and reach out. Starting South Pacific right about now. So we will see y'all tomorrow night after Survivor South Pacific.